What was the most statistically unlikely event you've ever witnessed?
For a college journalism class, I was assigned to write an obituary about one of my grandparents. All of my grandparents were alive, so I randomly chose my maternal grandfather. When I sat down to write it, I gave my mom a call and asked her for some basic biographical information about him. As we were talking about my grandpa's career, my mom couldn't recall the name of one of the companies he worked at. She lectured me about waiting until the last minute to write the assignment because it was late 10:30 p.m. my grandpa's time. However, she said she would give him a call to see if he was still awake and be able to answer that question once my assignment was due the following morning. When my mom called my grandma answered the phone in a panic. My grandma frantically explained that the paramedics had just arrived and were performing CPR on my grandpa because he had stopped breathing and lost consciousness. My mom was able to stay on the phone with my grandma until they took my grandpa to the hospital, where he was declared dead. In the time my mom and I had been talking on the phone about my grandpa's obituary, he was dying. His death was entirely unexpected at that. Although he was in his 80s, he was the healthiest of my grandparents at the time. We ended up using the obituary I wrote for that writing assignment as his actual obituary. Still freaks me out when I think about improbable it was that A. I was in a class that wanted me to write an obituary about a living grandparent. B. I randomly chose my maternal grandfather out of my 4 grandparents who were all alive, and C. The very night I wrote it, he died. Without the writing assignment, my mom would have never called as late at night as she did, and as such was able to talk to my grandma in the midst of the horrible situation.